Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. With us tonight,
Who put Stephen in charge of introducing the show now? What's going
there
on?
was awkward silence and I jumped in. I'm sorry.
He was waiting for the live thing to come up. Oh,
I know.
He's taken over.
Cool. Yeah, do it.
Jack, assert your manliness. Quick.
He hasn't got any.
Get your man boobs out.
There you go.
All right. Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out.
Why am I here? Hello. Welcome to Let's Drone Out.
Because you're everyone's favourite.
I'm everyone's favourite curry kitten.
I know. Oh.
It's everyone's favourite Wookiee, Jack.
Hi. Get it off me, please, and let's start properly.
We seem to have turned this into a school assembly.
Stingy, who are you and what's your dad do?
Managed to remove myself from the stream there. That was odd.
Go on,
Try
Jack.
starting again, Jack.
Yeah.
Hello,
better this time.
and welcome back to Let's Drone Out. Tonight you're joined by everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
Everyone's favourite man with the moustache, Stephen.
Hello.
My buddy from Canada, Carl,
Hello.
who does the socials. My darling and adoring wife.
I suppose I'd better say hello. Bonjour.
And tonight's guest, we are joined by Stinger Swarm.
Hey.
Stingy is driving home at the moment.
Yeah.
He's left early for work to come chat with us.
Bless.
So we will talk among ourselves whilst Kevin safely drives home. And then when he gets in the door, we can ask him some questions. Caroline, thank you so much for your donation. I still haven't got any fireworks.
Oh man,
I was-
we need to set light to some stuff because remember last week we got a donation of 20 bar as well, which we didn't do anything about. So yeah, we need.
You'll
to
have to
catch
blow
up.
up an ESC or something.
Yeah,
Got a
I
lot of
can't.
spare hair.
I can't find the listing at all. Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe because of COVID, we've got a firework shortage. I'm not too sure.
Light something around the flat.
No,
The government sent them all
like
to
why?
Ukraine, haven't you heard?
Yeah,
That's
I know.
6,000 rockets, that.
Shh, don't say
so-
that word. Get taken off air.
What rockets?
Ukraine, rockets,
Tesco.
anything like that.
It's not. We're not. You know, like last time I checked, Russia wasn't in charge of the internet.
Well, it will be soon.
We've got Lurgy, happy birthday, Failsafe, how you doing? Tailspin, KTMJ, hello, how you doing? Quad Squad, hello. I've already said happy birthday to Lurgy. It's his birthday weekend. Caroline, thank you for your donation.
God, yeah.
Audio Geek, Numbskull, how you doing, buddy? Andy RC was in the chat. Andy, are you still here? You sexy man. I'm sorry I inappropriately touched you during Western Park.
At least you apologise for it.
GFPV. Yep. Star Sucks. Chris Mal. How you doing? How is everyone? Martin McFly. I need to borrow you, my friend. I need you to test something for me. So send me a message on Facebook at some point. Andy's always watching me masturbate. Now that's a soundbite for the editor. Good luck cutting that one out. Stephen, have you got any topics for us?
Not a whole lot, although I did notice that Curry Kitten had a bit on the new fusion thing that he was experimenting with.
Oh, is that how you're supposed to say it? I thought it was a Chinese name and I was calling it the Fusion.
And you can
my
put
best
whatever odd
Chinese
accent you want. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Just don't walk the line too far.
I hadn't released a video yet, but yeah, the Fusion is a combination eLRS board and an OpenVTX board in one little board, which you can put in your Whoop, or bigger quad, I suppose, and have two things at once. Although I was having interesting problems with it, I found another interesting thing that I didn't know, which I like finding out things through errors and crashing, which is ELRS VTX Administrator is in charge. So should you decide to set your VTX power level via your OSD and then go and do something, it might change it back, which I wasn't expecting in mid-flight. So I would take off thinking I was in 25 milliwatt mode, go fly for a bit, and then it would say, oh, I'm swapping back to RCE mode, and I would just get a pure goggle full of static, and then I have to go find my quad again, which is different. But I found out more about how you should let Lua just do its thing and not try and basically do it on the OSD or do it via Lua, but don't try and do both, else they will fight and one will win, which is an interesting thing.
Isn't it the old save and reboot like settings?
No, because as soon as you start up your quad, your radio says, hello, you're running ELRS, are you? And it says, yes, I am. It's like, this is your power level. And for some reason, normally this is instant. If you go and change your band or channel or anything using that Lua script or on startup, it's like that. For some reason, I don't know if it's a bug somewhere in one of the many different open source things, or it's the flight controller or something else, there was a delay. So when I was first setting it, I was like, I'm going to set this to 25 milliwatts and see what happens. It's like, oh, it's still at 400. It's not working. I'll set it through the OSD. And yeah, and then for some reason, a minute later, it said, oh, you're right, I've changed power for you. P.S. You're now on this race setting, which has effectively turned off your VTX.
It's like
and
pit
I crashed.
mode. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not good.
That's weird.
No, it's bad.
Did you find out that the weird OpenVTX thing where you can use either smart audio or tramp, you no longer have to remember which one to select?
Yes. I mean, I'd forgotten about it because I was converting a quad that was already set for smart audio, so I just didn't touch it. But yeah, you could equally just say use tramp and it would just work because it detects what protocol you're using, which is quite clever. But OpenVTX, I kind of think, is a fix to a problem that doesn't exist. Express LRS was there because it's like, oh, now you can use all these different manufacturers' modules with all these other different manufacturers' receivers, and they all interchange and it's fine. We've never had a problem with VTXs because it's not like I've got Fat Shark goggles, therefore I can only use Fat Shark VTXs. It's like any to any. It's not really a problem. So in some ways I don't really understand why OpenVTX is there, but you know, it's not a bad thing to have, I guess.
It's good for noobs if you're building a quad and you kind of don't appreciate that tramp and smart audio are different, then it just works with whatever you set it to.
Yeah, although they still have to fill out the VTX table with something.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
So I'm not
quite
familiar.
good
Is
at that.
OpenVTX analog or is that something else?
No,
Yeah,
it's analog.
Okay.
So a bunch of people who decided to make a controller for those little rich wave video encoders that wasn't a proprietary one.
I see. Yeah, because there's another project that's like the Wi-Fi broadcast-based like HD video that seems really sketch.
Oh, this guy knows all about that.
That's called OpenHD, which was, it came from the Wi-Fi broadcast stuff, which I have been playing with, which is sketchy if we were doing your sort of flying, because the round-trip latency right now is about 120 milliseconds, so you'd be in the side of a shopping centre before you could think about it. But the idea is that they're building some hardware which is going to bring that down. I think they're targeting about 40 milliseconds for this new piece of hardware, which hopefully will come out and we'll get to test out and see what that's like.
It's also sketchy if you try and put a USB extension lead in the middle of it all, right?
Yeah, or you know, some things in general are going to be very sketchy.
Or if you try and feed the Wi-Fi card through the props, for example, stuff like that.
Yeah, I always find that's bad. I end up with many antennas of many different things chewed up by props at some various reasons.
Looks like Kevin's home.
He's home almost.
Yeah.
But I also found out this week a lot about shielding GPSs, which I found quite useful. Again, success through failure. My GPS doesn't work anymore. And then we learned about how copper tape put round it and then grounded with a piece of wire can shield your GPS perfectly and make it work.
I still can't believe that's a thing. I'm so confused as to what it was being shielded from, because it's not like you ever need to shield a receiver. but you need to shield the GPS.
I know, it's crazy, and this is something I had in that quad and was working, and then as soon as I put this other flight control in, it doesn't work. But when I was doing my research, I found so many videos about, I think it was called the Roma 4-inch, this long range quad which had a GPS, and it turned out from the factory the GPS was disabled, and that's because it was too close to the other stuff to work. So everybody turned it on and it's like, it doesn't work. And they all had to come up with various different ways of pushing it further apart or shielding it in some other way or replacing it with something better.
Wasn't that a thing with like moon tape or whatever for the like DJI V2 or something?
The DJI, what the V2 is in the tape, the goggles, or are you talking about the old-fashioned stuff, the NASA?
The old
you needed
Phantom.
a piece of tape on the NASA.
Yeah.
What was that for?
On the NASA, it had a really interesting problem where people were finding occasionally the quad wouldn't know its height anymore, and it would either go way up or way down. And what it was is the side of the box. The NASA was like a little box with like plugs you could plug servo leads into, but one of the sides was a little bit too translucent, so the sun could come through and affect the barometer. So you had to put a piece of masking tape on it to block the sun, else you'd be flying along and then your quad would say, I'm landing now because I don't know my height anymore, and it just come down, which is hilarious.
Do you use any long range stuff like that, Kevin? Any long range GPS quads?
The NASA.
Anything?
The NASA.
Well, not the NASA.
GPS on your freestyle quads.
Yeah, obviously. No, I do have one 4-inch setup that has a GPS. It's the newbie drone whirly gig that has GPS and rescue mode and all of that, but I don't use it a ton.
You never like fly over water and think, oh, I'm going to put GPS on this just in case.
No, I don't. For the most, if I'm going to fly over water, I'm more like zip tie, empty water bottle on it type of guy.
Can't go wrong.
See, this was what I was talking about. If you remember, there's Kevin there. Do you remember the Phantom 2? And then in the top shell, it would have the copper sandwich tape.
I remember that.
Oh,
yeah.
I've seen this.
I can't. And that would shield the GPS from the rest of the crap.
Everything else.
Yeah. See, I knew that was a thing. But
the weird thing is you're not shielding the actual GPS antenna. The antenna is not shielded. What you're shielding is the bit of wire that connects the GPS to the flight controller, which is just like, you never need to do that with any other bit of wire in your quad. You don't like, my crossfire's getting low LQ. I better wrap the cable between the RX and the flight controller in a bit of copper tape.
But the receiver is on the top on that drone, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah, and honestly, it's not about shielding that receiver. The issue is that those receivers typically also have the magnetometer. The magnetometer is extremely susceptible to electrical noise. So you're really shielding it for the magnetometer.
Ah, right. Yeah, so that's a different setup to Curry's then, because Betaflight can't even use a magnetometer, right? It's
correct.
GPS or nothing.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know if the reason we don't need it on receivers is because receivers are built to a much better spec. One thing, when I was researching about why is this going wrong, one of the videos popped up from Pavel, and he said the reason this is so bad is because it's badly shielded. He put like a Matek GPS/compass on the same point where he couldn't get a signal on one of the Beacon compasses, and it was absolutely fine. And that's because that's built to a higher spec, and their own sort of shielding is better. So it could just be that the receivers we're using are just like made to handle this stuff, and these GPSs are a bit, I don't know, not as good.
So the noise attenuation on the UART is just for crap. It doesn't work properly on the Beacon ones. Yeah. I remember Powell's test, and he did a whole bunch of tests for the lock-on time, and those Matek ones came out way ahead. Everything except for the really, really large Beacon one that no one uses, the 8 series, 880, which is just
880, yeah.
giant and doesn't fit on anything.
Yeah, it's got a compass in as well. You wouldn't use it for
Yeah, yeah.
regular stuff.
Stingy, what gear are you using now? Because I thanked you before the show for like going out and flying with Schizo. It was lovely to see. I've missed him dearly. He's my favourite pilot, and it was great to see. And you kind of exposed him to the world of DJI HD video. It must have been like luring some sort of cave dweller out, and like he came out with like all this Flintstone stuff, like, and he had like race shite board, like, you know, they don't even exist anymore.
He's only been not flying for like a year, so it's not like everybody makes a big deal out of it. Yes, the tech moves fast, but it does not move that fast. So yeah, he had a race flight controller, which oddly enough, they are still selling, air quotes, they still have for sale a Schizo edition flight controller, which he has not authorized at all, and which is not shipping. Do not give them money for such things. And he's not signed off on it. Like, that whole Preston situation is pretty sketch. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here. But anyways, yeah, so what am I flying these days? I am pretty much committed to moving over to Express LRS. I'm not like, I like it mostly because it is open source. I like the lower latency of it. I like the performance of it. The user experience was easier on Tracer with over-the-air updates, etc. Yeah, I don't know. I like it, but I'm not in love with it. Currently using the Radio Master TX16S. I tested out the Zorro. I made a whole video about all these radios, but then so many like issues and technical issues. Like I had the Beta FPV receiver with the flat antenna that I had range issues with. And like the video production just went into this rabbit hole of like, wait, what's the problem? Blah, blah, blah. So one day I will finish editing this video of my journey from the TBS Mambo into Express LRS and Radio Master radios, but it's a mess. So that's kind of where I'm at on the controlling side. I am flying the DJI Vista with the video transmitter. On frames, I've got TBS Source 1s. I've got like 3 of those built up. I was testing out the Axis Flying Manta for a minute, but that broke on me pretty quick. And then I'm always testing a slew of flight controllers. So one that has the Axis Flying Stack, one's got Talon H7 from, who is that? That's, I'm drawing a blank. And then another one with the Maytech H743. So just a, little bit of everything.
No kiss in there then.
No, I've not. I went full in on KISS a long time ago, and the performance level was just inconsistent. And everything that I'm hearing about, KISS Ultra and FetTech and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't like being on closed source systems like that. The amount of testing that goes on, I have friends that are in those like alpha test groups and all this. Like, same thing when I was flying Flight 1 for a period of time. It's like, oh, you got to find this firmware that works for you and everything's like gravy, and then don't change anything. And like a lot of times when the closed source products like make moves, they end up breaking things. And that's part of the reason that I'm just moving away from the TBS radios too. Like, I hate to say it, I love you, Trappy, but yeah.
Yeah, they're scheduled to get into EdgeTX that they've been pushed back like 2 or 3 releases now. It's going to be the summer before they get into EdgeTX with the Tango 2 and the Mamba. It's just kind of disappointing to see the pace of development on those, unfortunately. If you want to use them with any modern software except the EdgeTX build that they've come out with from Freedom TX, missing out a lot of features. It's a shame.
Yeah, are you talking more about you moved
Yeah.
to Tracer, right? At some point,
I
didn't
did
you?
go to Tracer for a while.
Yeah.
I did. I had a pre-production model that I had issues with that kind of got ironed. They did get ironed out, and I was happy with it. But then the more I saw with where Edge TX and Express LRS were headed, I was like, you know what? I just want to be on something that's fully supported by those open source projects.
They kind of shot themselves in the foot a bit with that CRSF v3 stuff recently as well. They, tried to push that out, and they were auto-negotiating the speed of the connection and causing random fail-safes, and it's just not what you want from Crossfire, is it? You want Crossfire to be the boring guy in the room.
Yeah. It's not much better with the Ghost, because I missed the Lewis script tuning. I actually had to go back and use Crossfire with like a little brushless whoop, HD whoop, because no tuning with the Lewis script. Just the worst.
Looks like Andy's hit the Crossfire problems as well. They've tried to push out a bunch of let's make this faster fixes, but it all feels like a bit of a knee jerk because a lot of this is causing instability.
Yeah. I advise Cole to.
It boils down to
No, carry on.
Sorry, a lot of it boils down to just the size of the teams that are working on it and the size of the test group. Yeah.
Not enough test pilots, you mean, fundamentally?
Yeah.
Because Cole's got a Tango too, and he was flying, and literally he was still line of sight, and it just totally disconnected. And would you crash on like a roof or something?
Yeah, it was. I could pull up a clip or whatever, but yeah, it was like
that would be amazing.
Let me see if I can find it here. It was. It was scary because it was my first time fail-safing, and it was just very strange.
Is that off this latest firmware, or is this a historic thing?
This was no, this wasn't. To be
early
honest,
days of the Tango too.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's not like that time that Jack claimed to fail safe after he flew backwards into a hill, is it? And then blamed Crossfire.
No, I definitely
it wasn't the ground.
Safe.
It was my radio link.
I did fail safe. It went beep, 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 beep.
So you guys can see this here, right? No, okay. So
yeah, we got it.
Yeah. Oh, is it beeping like crazy? Sorry.
No. Like that's what I proved that I fail safed. Still fine.
Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just zing, and then I'm stuck on a roof. Like I was so close to myself too. It was very strange. Like,
that's you in front of the building. Yeah, that's what 200 meters maybe.
Well, so actually, I was right beside my quad right here. This is. I mean, it's close.
So you go over one building, over another building. I mean, they are metal sheets, which is pretty bad, but yeah, even so.
Yeah.
But I wasn't over anything when I fail-safe. Look, I wasn't even over anything.
Oh, yeah, but the link quality only cuts out when you're hitting the ground.
Yeah, the link quality is still fine. Like if you look,
99%.
Yeah. So what was it?
Yeah, I don't know, but
weird.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Crossfire or something. It looked like
could have been a prop.
Something else to me.
No, he flew it back down.
Yeah. I basically had to walk closer, and then I was able to rearm and get it back down. But yeah, it was weird.
Been doing your wiring with tape again. Good LDO tradition.
Oh man, I'm getting hassle from Frank.
I did like the fact that it fail-safe, giving you a link quality of 99%, and then when you're on the roof, it's like 0. Told you. I told you I was ill.
But the weird thing is, I haven't gotten any fail-safes since then.
Well, you've updated now.
Well, yeah, but it's just weird. I don't know.
A lot of metal there, though.
Yeah. Stingy, how was your trip to Poland? Your last video?
I had a great trip. I was visiting family. My wife is from Poland, and so we were visiting her parents and brothers and sisters, etc. And we had a great time. Got a little bit of a cold. I don't know. Anytime I'm traveling internationally like that, just lack of sleep and exposure to germs and all of that. So I got a bit of a cough and hoarse right now. Apologies. But we had a great time.
It wasn't any of the local liquor then? You weren't drinking like Bekarovka or something?
No, I didn't do a whole lot of drinking.
Yeah.
It's just over in Slovakia doing some snowboarding, and they've got some fierce mountain liquor there. Like funny herbal aperitifs and things, digestives.
Oh, yeah. That sounds terrifying.
I wanted to ask in your equipment, Kevin, I noticed you were doing some videos about using Gyroflow to make the DJI Action 2 look good, which looks interesting, but it's a very long process especially when you're using black box to get your gyro data. Are you using that instead of a GoPro? And if so, why?
Yes, I am using the Action 2 instead of a GoPro, and the reason is 100 grams lighter. So that's what it all boils down to, is going back to a lighter weight setup that's more nimble and more fun to fly aggressively for proximity FPV. So I originally moved to the Action 2, was super excited about it, but then slowly noticed issues with the rock steady stabilization. It just does like a little jitter here and there that was getting on my nerves like crazy. So started experimenting with Gyroflow, and if you need something stabilized, it is a viable option. It's just the workflow is not ideal. If they support the gyro data from the Action 2, that'll be a much more viable option. But as of right now, like the last video I put out, I didn't have any stabilization. I just turned everything off and went for it.
Looked like a pretty complex workflow, having to get those sync points, and it'll tell you, well, I think this synced about here, and you have to validate and adjust. And it seems
honestly, once I figured out how to use it, like knowing the general offset, like you go to the point in the video where your motor's arm, and you're like, okay, that's 20 seconds. Drop in the 20-second offset, and then hit sync. It is pretty straightforward. I haven't actually had to adjust a sync yet in using it, and I've done maybe a dozen flights or so.
So now you're making sure all of your flight controllers have a micro SD for black box as well, then?
Well, that's the downside, because like the Axis Flying stack, that thing has like an 8 megabyte flash. The Talon H7 has a 16 megabyte flash. The only thing that I have that takes an SD card is the H743. So it's just not really, and plus trying to keep track of which black box log is which video. God, it's just going to be like, I have another video from Poland that I have to edit, and I did do some Gyroflow stuff in that. And I had to say, like this setup, first flight of the day, go. And then you got to do a little bit of remembering, like, oh, I armed it to check that everything was working beforehand, or, oh, I had to turtle mode here. Yeah.
So if you're flying a bunch of packs, like after every pack, are you getting your phone out and plugging in the phone and copying the black box data off?
I'm not going to that level. I just did like a couple of flights to do the Gyroflow on that day. And that's the only other time that I've tried to use Gyroflow other than the test data that I posted the video from.
Got to say that the unstabilized footage looks pretty good. I suppose it's like if you're looking for something like really, really smooth and nice, you'd do it. But for sort of general fun flying freestyle stuff, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I've got Failsafe in the chat. He posted a couple of vids of that with no stabilization, and yeah, it's crisp.
I think honestly, if you are going for stabilized footage, the GoPro just makes a ton more sense, especially the Hero 10, because you've got that 5.7K, so it can crop in for stabilization and still have like a true 4K output. The Action 2, it's more of just like a novelty. Like I was curious, hey, what can I get out of this system? And I may still do like a video where I do like a horizon lock or the adjustable zoom where it like totally rips off like the whole real steady look. But yeah, it's just, that's not something that I do typically. I was just curious what was possible with the tech. I like trying new things and geeking out on things. Like I was saying before we even got started, I've been using the A7 IV, and that has gyro data embedded in the video files. And there's software from Sony that does essentially the same thing that Real Steady and Gyroflow does. It's called Catalyst Browse. And I've been running all of my vlog footage through that lately, and Bcam, B-roll.
It'd be nice if we get to the point where all cameras that have a gyro have just one app, so you don't have to learn how all these different confusing apps work. You just like, yeah, take my file, take my gyro data, put it into Gyroflow. Doesn't matter if it's a Runcam 5 Orange or a GoPro, Insta360 or Action. Just goes in there and off you go. That'd be neat.
I mean, they could always just do it in camera.
I
mean,
think
the
Gyroflow is really
hypersmooth
the only
stuff's pretty good.
product.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I think Gyroflow is like the best candidate for that, because all the other, like Real Steady, that's owned by GoPro. DJI is probably going to put out their own thing. Catalyst Browse is a Sony piece of software. So all of these others are, trying to do this proprietary closed box thing, whereas Gyroflow has the potential to do like all the things. But it's going to be a more difficult workflow because you got to have like a lens profile, etc. So yeah, I don't know.
There's a ton of lens profiles out there, though. So once you've figured out which ones you need, it's not too bad.
Yeah. And you can make your own. You can make your own.
Just get a test card and film it.
Yeah.
I just lob a GoPro on and go fly.
Sure.
With everything else.
It's nice to be able to tweak it a bit afterwards, because you can like say, oh, how smooth do I want to make it? Do I want to go for that real cine feel, or just take out some of the jello and bumps?
I mean, on a GoPro 10, you can film it with Hypersmooth, and then you can still go and use Gyroflow if you want to. Although a GoPro 10, it's like it's hurting my arm just holding it in the air, let alone putting on a quad. It's so heavy. It's like I'd have to get new motors and stuff to fly with it.
Yeah.
Back to Failsafe's question here. He was mentioning that he uses the Action too, and there's a lack of dynamic range. You kind of lose stuff in the shadows a bit. What's your take on that?
You 100% do. It depending on the lighting environment, it can be acceptable or it can be pretty bad. What I have honestly been doing, I found that like really early on trying to color grade it using the flat profile, that the shadows were just crushed. And so I have mine set, depending on the day, set to plus 0.3 to 0.7 EV, exposure compensation, to just bring up the shadows, because I can bring it. It will blow out the highlights, but that's usually like the sun. It's going to be blown out anyways. And so, yeah, I find that if I do just use a little bit of exposure compensation to bring the shadows up, it's a little bit more workable, but it's an issue. Yeah.
Do you think it's something they're going to change, or is that just what it's going to be stuck with?
I think that's just what it is. For me, I'm still holding out hope that there may be another session style form factor camera.
Well, that's what everyone's telling us. The rumors going around, they're going to get the Hero 10 guts, and now it's been out there a while, they'll refine it and squeeze it into a session body. And
I hope so.
That's what people are whispering.
I don't know exactly what the guts will be, but for my 2 cents, I vote with my dollars. And if I just keep buying the GoPro 10, then you're telling GoPro, hey, this is fine. We will make it work. This is fine. Right. If you don't start buying something else, then they're not going to get the message. So that's why I'm switching to the Action too. It's just like a, hey, please fix this GoPro message.
Good take. Vote with your wallet.
Yeah. How are you finding like moving the data off there because I've got an SD card?
Well, I run 2 cameras, and then because the battery life won't make it through a full day of flying, nor will the internal storage. So I fly 2 or 3 batteries, and then I take the camera off the quad, put it on the little second screen, and start dumping footage to the SD card. And then depending on how long of a fly day, I may put that on a battery bank to keep the base charged as well. And just keep dumping footage as I go.
Just
That
a
could
swamp.
save you one day. That could save you one day. How
Mm.
many times have we all done a
It's
fantastic
the smart way to
flight
go.
and then crashed or lost
Yeah.
the GoPro?
GoPro's on the roof. Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Well, this is my solution for GoPro is I just have a bunch of SD cards. This lives in my wallet. And then when, once I fill up an SD card, I swap it in. That's what I used to do with the GoPros. Now with the Action 2s, I just have a large SD card. But yeah, that's gonna, I have broken SD cards. I have smashed GoPros that then shorted out and fried SD cards. I have lost GoPros. There is always an opportunity to lose the footage. So moving it off the camera that you're flying around is not a bad idea.
No.
Yeah, the sooner the better. Dump it and have it in the archives basically.
One is none.
Yep.
Got to copy that data.
Yep.
So kind of where you started with this, you were saying, oh, it's just too heavy. The GoPro's getting too heavy. Over to the Action 2. So you're not one of these guys that's going up to like 25mm motors and just getting bigger and bigger. You're trying to stay on the lighter quads and just deal with the lighter cameras.
Yes, because the problem with going heavier, like when I designed the X-Hover Stingy V2, we were running Hero Sessions and we were running 4S batteries. And then, we got to the 6 and the 7 and the 8 and the cameras were just getting heavier and heavier. We'd moved to the 6S batteries that were heavier. And so my builds when the Stingy came out were like 600 grams, 625 grams. My builds at the end of me running the Stingy with the 6S and using the Hero 8, I was like 750 grams. And you know what? I was breaking a ton more carbon fiber because the frame just wasn't designed around that. So you're in this feedback loop. Like, okay, well, I can't fly as aggressively, so bigger motors. Well, now the whole thing's heavier. And now I'm breaking more carbon fiber, so let's thicken everything up. And now it's heavier again. Well, now I need more power, so let's get more aggressive props. And like it's a feedback loop, and the more is not always the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just chasing your tail.
You end up building like this 6-inch tank rather than a regular 5-inch freestyle quad.
Yep. So I just nixed all that and went back to, I'm still running a fairly heavy setup compared to where I was back in 2017 or whatever. But it's, the weight is that 6S battery for it. And, shedding 100 grams and having that same powertrain, the thing is just a monster. Like, look at the Poland 1-pack that I put out. The acceleration is insane.
So is that 100 grams including like a battery removal mod on the GoPro? Were you already doing that?
No, 100 grams is like the weight difference of the Hero 10 versus the Action 2.
Okay. Did you try and run any of those little like 5-volt converters off the balance lead and all that?
Yeah, I have some of those, but I have never. I bought some and then never actually used it.
Right.
I've got some for my long range stuff.
I suppose if you're freestyling
Okay, I'll
really
be down
heavily,
shortly.
it's just another wire that can get ripped out, isn't it?
That's the thing, is it's just another failure point for the GoPro, and it is going to break because you are going to crash, you are going to tumble, you are going to go flying into a tree, and it's going to get ripped out. And that's
you
part of the
break
reason
the USB port.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason I never actually used it. I had it as like with the intent of testing, and then never did.
Yeah,
fair enough.
And to be fair, like the Action 2 that I've had, I have not killed one yet. I have, it's the protective lens has been smashed, but I have like plowed that thing in from the moon, upside down, like full power into the ground. And I just cannot kill that camera. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Well, now you
like
said it. Now you said it. The
resilience-
next time you fly, it's just gonna.
Well,
yeah,
that's good
I mean,
news because
to be clear, the screen on it doesn't work anymore, but it comes with a second screen that you don't ever fly with. So
So you can just adjust settings on that second screen, put it on the quad, good to go.
Yep.
Nice.
It's good because when I first saw that, the immediate thing was that lens is just there, and it's like if that's going to break, it's going to break. But just a basic sort of lens protector will stop it from being smashed, and it's just the lens protector getting smashed in the.
I have a TPU like 3D printed case, and if it hits face first on a flat surface, the TPU is going to hit first. But if you go into a pole, like there's nothing to protect a GoPro lens if it goes straight into a pole either, or a rock or any number of things. It's not going to be invincible forever.
No.
Very few cameras withstand a full throttle power loop. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's why I like still running the 7, because you can literally just break your lens off and put a new one on. 12 quid.
Here's the issue that I have with the 7. I was a bigger fan of the 8 than the 7, because with the 7, the little twist-on thing would always come off, and then there was no rim around the lens. And so once that thing popped off, if you don't have spares, it will hit the ground, it will scratch the lens, and then you're done. Whereas with the 8, if I break the lens protector, I just smash out the glass, and I still have like a metal or plastic frame that protects it from skidding when I hit the ground. Now, there's an argument to be made that like, oh, you just buy a bunch of these like $12 things. But it's like, I think those are $12. I could be wrong. It's been a minute. But that $12 versus, 40 or sometimes even free for us in the States to go to Best Buy and be like, hey, my GoPro's broken and get a new one. Like, I'd rather just go get a new one.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury here unless we do it ourselves.
Yeah, sorry.
It'd be nice if all this talk of environmental regulations actually resulted in camera manufacturers making something that was serviceable and user repairable rather than just using glue to put all the parts on. If they actually went out there and acknowledged, like, hey, it's designed for action sports, maybe we want to make it repairable. That'd be nice to see.
Yeah.
The thing that I've got, like, I run a GoPro Hero 7, but a lot of the time I crash so hard that the internal lens smashes like out and moves, and then I'm out of focus. I don't know whether anyone else. Yeah, I've done 2 now. It's a nightmare. But Stingy,
I had that issue with the 7 and the 8.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Can I like sort of bring you back to the sort of timeline, because say like the end of Rotor Riot, that finished, you were flying with the guys in Atlanta, you've done some stuff with cricket, because you stopped being a pilot, is that right? And commercial flying. And can you just fill us in on your timeline, because like you came back about a year ago, didn't you, to YouTube, and then started doing the hops and props and popcorn and
so there was, I left the airline world to work for Rotor Riot. We tried to make a run of quad camp, but like that, or different training aspects, which never really made a profit. And so that opportunity came to an end. And then I was just full-time with, YouTube and travel on my own for a period of time. And as that, that was stressful, just trying to, what's next? Oh, this product. Oh, this, different projects. And then I basically decided that it just wasn't for me, and went and got like a typical 9-to-5 whole thing at the same time that I got in a relationship with my wife, got married, had a kid,
congratulations.
States, like all of the life changes all at once, bought a house, and, so now, life is starting to settle back down a little bit and have a bit more of a routine. The baby isn't like just a itty bitty newborn anymore, and getting back into FPV content creation as a hobby.
Nice.
Cool.
Do you find it a bit more chill to just have it as a hobby instead of trying to have to make a living from doing that?
Well, yes, definitely. It's less stressful. However, I am not good at doing things chill. I can't help but like gamify the whole thing and like look at the metrics and what type of content do I want to do, and like plotting out, and I want to do this video, I want to do that video, I want to test this thing, I want to talk about this thing. So I tend to just like dive, like I'm ADD and I will go like full fixation deep dive on it real quick.
Is it still fun when it's a job, or is it more fun when it's a hobby?
More fun when it's a hobby.
Right. I did notice a trend. A lot of people a while ago were talking about how trying to manage a YouTube channel and kind of turn it into a business was just becoming a pretty tough situation. Pretty tough situation to be in. Wonder if you found that.
Sorry, I don't know if there was a question. It was breaking up on the last one.
Apologies. I said a while ago, I noticed a lot of people were talking about how the YouTube situation had changed and it was a lot tougher to really monetize a channel and grow it. I wondered if you'd noticed that.
I mean, personally, for me, there was FPV YouTube is a weird space to be in. A lot of the things that YouTubers talk about don't really apply because it's not like it's a passing hobby. So many people get into it as a hobby and get out of it. So like trying to meet the metrics of views as a percentage of your subscribers is just like out the door, because a huge chunk of my subscribers, I guarantee you, do not fly FPV anymore. This was a passing hobby. They picked it up for a while. They either got really into it or just kind of thought about buying a drone even, and now they've moved on. So when I wasn't making content regularly, if I put out a video and it was like the only thing I did for 2 months, the only thing I would see is a loss of subscribers, because it was just like a notification going to a bunch of people that don't do FPV anymore, and they're like, I forgot. I don't even want to follow that guy anymore. But now that I'm making content more regularly, like I see, you know, increases in subscribers, increases in viewer count, because, you know, the YouTube algorithms are putting that content in front of more people who may have gotten into FPV since I was active. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Curry had to go. He had a family thing.
Yeah, so a complex situation to manage, and it's not the same as being someone who's, I don't know, doing something for kids or cookery or something that's more widely applicable. It's a totally different game.
Yeah. But it is a different game, but at the same time, like, it's a more tightly knit community. I would say, you know, if it was up to me, I would definitely choose to be in FPV. Not only because FPV is something that I love, but because it is such a small community. Like, I have been interacting with the same people on YouTube, commenting, etc., for years now, and you know, go to different events and see them and meet in person and hang out and fly, and like it's an awesome community to be a part of.
Indeed. I've made lots of friends.
It's crazy to think how much it all revolves around YouTube, though. Like, that is the crux of it, isn't it? For a lot of it, there's a little bit of Instagram stuff, but mainly YouTube.
TikTok these days, I hear there's like TikTok famous FPV pilots now.
No way.
We have that. It's Ken FPV. He's one of those guys, I think. Yeah, that Eric Konasti was talking about last week.
I'm too much of a boomer to go on those things.
I'm not doing it.
I thought it was just for tweens who want to share dance routines.
Innit?
Yeah. Tony flossing. Can you imagine it? All right.
I mean, I feel like TikTok nowadays is more for like, it could be anybody who wants to promote something because there's so many users on it. But it's all about dialing it into, working for you, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely weird for some people. Yeah.
Different platforms have different users, and those different users have different expectations as well. Like, I'd never go onto Instagram expecting to watch any kind of tutorial or informational content. It was just like brief distraction. Whereas on YouTube, you can do something that's longer form. I have no idea what TikTok's like, because personally I just bounced off it. A couple of people have showed me it and I've been like, okay, fine.
Yeah, not my cup of tea.
Kevin,
I think that's probably why FPV is so focused on YouTube, is because there's such a steep learning curve. You need tutorials. You need to learn how like these radios work and all this different open source software and like what connects to what. And if you need tutorials. So everybody has to go and find that info somewhere.
Well, there's also
it's not,
a few...
RC groups anymore.
Sorry for interrupting. I was going to say there's a few top flight pilots who can put out like a 5-second like eyeball grabbing routine, but there's a lot of people who are doing content that just naturally is longer than that. It's kind of a sit down and watch experience.
What was I going to say? Sure. I was going to say you were testing out the guessing the control link speed with the Express LRS with Joshua Bardwell, and I wondered, did you move over to Express LRS?
So I have moved over to Express LRS, but we were using the Ghost system in that test. But yes.
Okay. Yeah. Did you? How well did you guess it? I think you guys done pretty well.
We were both 50-50. No better than chance.
Oh, what?
That's funny.
Oh, man.
Do you think if you got a couple of teenagers in, they'd have noticed the difference?
I think.
What are you saying, Stephen?
Did
look at the top race pilots. That's what I'm saying.
If you did several flights, I think that if you gave me like a 500 hertz setup and I got used to flying it, and then you were like, all right, on one random pack today, I'm going to put it at a lower frequency. Tell me when it is. I think that would be discernible. Going like back and forth, like which is it? And I didn't know what was fast out the gate. It's so subjective. I don't think that there's a big enough difference to like say definitively this one's the fast one, this one's the slow one. But I think I could put my finger on something doesn't feel right this time.
I think also like people's sense memory isn't that great. Like to be able to compare how this feels compared to how something else feels and hold that all in your head.
Yeah.
And to go, because like it's a video, and through the magic of editing, it was like back to back. But in reality, it's like fly. All right, now wait 3 minutes while we change batteries. And
exactly.
change this,
so you weren't
that,
changing in the
other,
middle of a flight. You're having to
now
like
go again.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're flying an entire pack at one and then land.
The radio. Not a whole pack, but like fly for till you make an assessment, then land, and hand the control over. Then he punches a bunch of buttons, then power cycles the drone, and then hands it back to you. And like 2 minutes later, you're flying again. So like trying to remember that. No.
So you've got to hold on to that picture for 2 minutes and then be like, all right, and now. Yeah.
Yeah.
How far do you think you'd have to take it until it was really obvious? Like down to 25 hertz? There's going to be a point where you're like, this feels like crap, surely.
Yes. Definitely. And I don't know where that would be.
It might be interesting to see how far you can go down the signal speed before. You could repeat it with some people who are, like twitchy FPS gamer teenagers as well. I have a feeling that the younger you get, the better your reflexes are. No offense to us old guys. We've all got a few years on us, but a lot of these teenagers seem to be the ones that are saying, oh yeah, you need a 120 hertz monitor, you need 200 hertz monitor for all these games.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like Linus Tech Tips doing the FPS shooter and seeing the delay reaction of, like the mouse and the keyboard, and then the refresh rate of the screen. I think there's just so many factors in everything, really, especially like for you, Kevin. You're flying DJI anyway, aren't you? So.
Yep.
That adds. What is the delay on that? It's quite a bit. Isn't
I think
it?
the minimum is 20 something milliseconds.
Yeah, oh, man, that's crazy.
I can't even tell the difference really between HQ and LQ on DJI. Like I flick back and forth, and eventually I'll just like, oh, whatever. I don't need low latency. I'm not that good. I just keep
Your
it on
brain
the,
remaps
image.
to it.
Yeah.
Up to a certain level. And honestly, flying DJI with Express LRS now is, you have to keep in mind, it's not about the latency of the control link or the latency of the video or like which one is the highest. That's not it. It's the latency of the entire system. From the time I move my thumb, that has to go through the gimbal into OpenTX or XTX, and then into the Express LRS radio, and then to the receiver, and then out to the flight controller that has to run the PID loop, that then has to decide to spin the motor faster, which then sends it to the ESC, and you've got the delay there. And then the ESC needs to spin the motor up, which may be a factor of like how big is the prop, and is the prop motor spec'd properly to one another that it can spin it up fast enough, which moves the aircraft. If then the camera reads that, encodes that, sends that to the video transmitter, which then packetizes it, sends it to your goggles, which then breaks it up and reassembles it and provides it to your eyeballs. So it's the total time from when I move my stick till I see the drone move in the video that is really what matters. And if you look at where we were with analog, where you had a camera that was 10 milliseconds of latency, and Crossfire, which was up to 30 milliseconds of latency back in the day, and then you compare that to going to Express LRS now, which is 6 milliseconds of latency, and DJI, which is 30 milliseconds of latency, the overall system latency is still about the same. So me running Express LRS and DJI is about the equivalent of me running Crossfire and analog video back in the day.
That is stingy. A slightly more impressive beard.
Well, when you say it like
that,
it's crazy, isn't it? What actually happens?
Yeah.
The chain. Yeah.
The full
Me and
control
Tony
loop
are
stays
just
the same. You just slice it up differently.
Crying and rocking back and forth in the corner. Oh man, I
Jack
miss you,
just
man.
wants to go back to the days of OpenPilot, don't you? Just want to go back to the good old
No, even before
Maze
that,
32.
KK2.
We're going back. We're going to go back and fly our old stuff.
Yeah, KK2, where you can see the configurator screen on the controller. No GUI. Me and Tony can't even spell GUI.
Oh, you had the fancy KK2 then. You didn't even have the one with just the screws.
No, that was Curry Kittens. Oh my god, man! Yeah,
Jewelry
up in the gains by. We've gone full circle now that the Betaflight has sliders. You might as well just put those.
I bet there's going to be a mod, and
there.
someone will put potentiometers on a flight controller now, so you can just go and tweak the PIDs of your flight controller.
Oh my god, I want it! I want it right now.
Steve, what was your first build? What was your first rig? Can you remember back?
Yes, the first thing I built was QAV 250 with a Naze 32 running base. Well, actually, by the time I got it, it was on Clean Flight, but I did mess around with base flight while I was waiting because I ordered everything in the middle of Chinese New Year and it took forever.
Oh,
but it was like 1806 motors, 3S. With
1806,
I don't even know what the ESCs were.
Simon K.
Blades.
No, it wasn't Simon K. I don't think, but yeah, it was definitely Blades.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be down in just a minute.
Bull nose.
And yeah, and the Pizio 420 camera, that huge circuit board of a camera that I ran like RC fuel lines to give myself if you don't know, it was
The
like a
tilt.
30 by 30 board. Yeah, and if you wanted camera tilt, then on the 4 screws, on the 2 top ones, you would put fuel lines to tilt it back so that you
That's
could get
it.
some camera tilt.
Oh,
And you had to
God,
like
it was
file
terrible.
out the like carbon fiber hole so that it would mount tilted. Like, yeah.
I don't know what they've got these starters nowadays, do they? Eh?
Oh yeah. Don't get me talking about trying to flash BL Heli on an ESC back when you had to make your own adapter with an
Header.
Arduino and
Look at this.
the Pizio
That's
420.
Oh, well, remember that.
That was before there was a run cam.
And you
Like
used to
those were
have to
old.
break the edges of the board off to fit it in.
Yeah, take them
Mouth
off.
Yeah.
bites.
You had to file them off.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Snap them off
Snap them off, yeah.
with pliers.
We better let you go, Kevin. I see someone's keep saying, "Oi, come on,
Yeah.
come on." The
Yeah,
wife is
dinner's ready.
calling.
All right,
Dinner's ready, but don't burn
right,
it.
let's wrap it up. Let's do an outro. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. Thank you for showing up. The show's live every Thursday, 8 p.m. on YouTube. So come and hang out if you're an audio listener on the podcast. We have got a Patreon as well. We're supported by those lovely people, so you get an unbiased opinion. We're not shilling for other people, so we can say stuff like Tracer's crap and Ghost needs lure and stuff like that. And Express LRS is not as good as Open ELRS. Oh, Stephen Twitch then.
Everyone should be using FR Sky. It's the best.
Yeah. D4R2,
Oh my God.
baby. D4R2.
We're going back now.
Yeah.
I thought EMAX
So-
just released a new radio running FR Sky. What was that?
Oh my god, kill it with fire. You've been joined by
Throw 'em under the
everyone's
bus.
favorite. Yeah, you've been joined by everyone's favorite man with a mustache, Stephen.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
The man who does socials and thumbnails, Cole.
See ya.
My darling wife, Tony.
Bye.
Curry Kitten had to slip off, so he's gone. Bye. And if you like the channel, please like and subscribe. I'm Curry Kitchen. And we have been joined by our special guest, Kevin. Sing a song.
Bye.
And
Bye.
I've been bright until I fly. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Good